It goes without saying that Bronny James became one of the most polarizing draft picks in NBA history in 2024, and that quickly led to a bunch of fans and media personalities alike following the narrative of nepotism in the case of being LeBron James' son and getting a spot on the Lakers, or at least for their G League team. But what people refused to acknowledge was that there were clear smarts, intangibles, and physical attributes that Bronny James possesses that will lead him to becoming a rotational piece for the LA Lakers, and I think it's going to happen this year. And that's not a prediction, that's more of a promise. Before we get into everything, hello, my name is Dean Simon, and I love NBA basketball. I'm going to be covering the NBA and all 30 teams throughout the 25-26 season. So if you could hit that subscribe button down below, I would really, really appreciate it. Trying to get to 100 or 150 at least before the end of the year, so I would really appreciate you hitting that button below. Also, turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos. The casual fan would look at the basketball reference page of Bronny James to look at how he struggled for the main NBA franchise this past season. But what most won't do is look up Bronny James G League stats and see that he put up 21, 5 and 5 with about 2 steals and shot 38% on about 8 3-point attempts. Just absolutely ridiculous. He became an immediate star in the NBA G League, and that's not a very easy thing to do. The G League, for all intents and purposes, is maybe the at lowest third best basketball league in the entire world, and I feel like that's not very arguable. And my main point with all this is that Bronny James was amazing on the court without the tutelage of his dad. He didn't have LeBron James by his side every second. It's not like LeBron was forcing Bronny to be a fantastic player at the G League level. That was all Bronny. I think what really surprised a lot of people, though, is not just Bronny's incredible defensive attributes, but that he looked so comfortable on offense. I think the thing with Bronny James, it's really all confidence, and you could see him building that confidence slowly in the G League throughout his 11 games that he played, and you could just see that his poise was there, and he was able to be a little bit more patient in terms of his decision making and pick and roll, and coming down the court in transition, and just being patient with his footwork and using his body control to finish very tough layups. He has so many different parts of his game that could really translate to helping the Lakers, the main franchise, win games, especially next to a guy like Luka. I don't think it's a really crazy thing to say that Bronny James could be the perfect backcourt partner for Luka Doncic over the next 5 to 7 years. And again, it's not just because of his natural defensive gifts and his great agility and his strength, and he's a stockier, stronger point guard for his 6'2" frame. Bronny James, if he can develop into more of a consistent catch and shoot 3-point shooter, and he showed in the G League that he could hit threes off the dribble. If he can just keep developing in both of those areas, he will be a rotational piece for the Lakers this year. It's not crazy to say. Touched on it a little bit, but Bronny James absolutely smoked the G League this year, and I feel like that's just already completely going under wraps, and nobody's really paying attention to the pure numbers of him in the G League. And I feel like maybe we should take a second to kind of look at his year in review, or at least look at the best game of his year. So, from an offensive perspective, from when Bronny really started to gain traction from last year, this is his 39-point outburst against the Santa Cruz Warriors in the G League. And we're just going to kind of go through this and talk about what we're seeing. So, off high glass with a left-handed lay. That is just, it's impressive, but that's not nearly the most impressive finish that we're going to see in this video. Bronny, patient off the pick, a little fake, and a floater in the lane. The biggest part of Bronny James's game will be developing his confidence on the actual NBA stage. And also, look at how he's able to use his body at 6'2" and closer to 200 pounds of pure muscle. Bronny James is a very strong point guard with a great center of gravity, and that's why he can make things happen like that. Now on the break, we see Bronny, it's basically a 1-on-3, develops into a 1-on-2, but he's patient, slithers through, and finishes with the left hand. Bronny is more talented than anybody realizes. Again, Bronny stepping back, working off the pick. Very patient. That was Luka Doncic-esque. The delayed one step to the second step and then finishing high off glass. That was very Luka-esque. Gets to the rim with relative ease right there. So, with regard to Bronny, the three-point shooting was obviously a huge surprise because while he definitely has a very great-looking jump shot, the rate at which it was going down, at least for him in college, it was not nearly to this effect. But of course, he has a lot more free reign in the G League, and has a lot more ability to take these kinds of step back threes, and he hit them at a great clip in this one. The way that we could think about this is for the future for Bronny James, because the Lakers obviously brought in Marcus Smart to help a guy like Luka out on the perimeter to be a good defensive partner for him in the backcourt. But Bronny James could develop into exactly what the Lakers need, and he could take over that spot, if not for Marcus Smart, then for Gabe Vincent this year. And others have said that, like Jovan Bua, who covers the Lakers as well. He said that if things go right with Bronny's development, he could potentially catch up to a guy like Gabe Vincent, who's on an expiring deal and maybe traded anyway. So even in that case, it would open up more room for Bronny to grow. And it's only a matter of time, really, until Bronny is with the actual team and he's able to kind of settle in and get used to playing under the bright lights of now crypto.com arena. I think a lot of the reasoning for why I am so high on Bronny James going into only his second year is that with the fit of Luka Doncic, he could be one of the perfect partners as a role player for Luka. Not saying that Bronny's necessarily going to be starting at the shooting guard or anything next to Luka, and that's going to be the duo of the future. I'm not saying that by any stretch, but Bronny James could certainly be the eighth, ninth man on a good competitive team that can play spot minutes alongside Luka, and he can assist him heavily on defense. Just a side note here, the kid almost died. I feel like people don't really talk about that as much either now that he's got to the NBA and he's had a full year and it kind of seems so distant. But the kid almost died in college. And the fact that he's even able to play this many minutes, this consistently for the G League roster and get some sort of back end garbage time minutes in the NBA, it's a miracle that he's even still with us. But here's the fact of him on the court. Bronny, you could see very early on that it really just was a confidence issue when he would get in for the last 2, 3 minutes of a game, especially his first experience on an NBA floor, checking into the game with his father standing by his side. People don't really like to acknowledge how much pressure and the weight that was placed upon Bronny's shoulders in that moment to be the first father son duo in NBA history. But now that LeBron is towards the end of his career. He already was, but now that he's really starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel in year 23, Bronny can now focus more on himself and the fact that, the spotlight is a lot less on him in his second year. It was already great for him that he had a little bit less immediate exposure for the G League team. Now he'll get a second year where he can really start to revamp himself and get himself prepared to actually contribute to the Lakers bench rotation. I saw a stat recently that it basically was talking about Bronny James and how in the limited minutes that he got for this Lakers rotation, this little spiel is going to be about defense, by the way, that Bronny James was fourth or fifth on the Lakers team again, relative to his minutes. I think this was per 36 minutes. Bronny was fourth or fifth on the team in deflections, and he was up at the top alongside guys like Jared Vanderbilt and Jordan Goodwin, who was one of the Lakers' best perimeter defenders. And then it was Bronny James. The mix of agility and strength and speed and his leaping ability, these are what makes him a perfect defensive partner alongside Luka again in spot minutes, but also him developing his confidence on the offensive end and just getting to a place where he can run the floor in transition and even possibly be a lob threat for a guy like Luka. His all-around ability on offense plus the improving three-point shooting, this is only going to be having him go on the up and up as we come towards the regular season and we come towards sort of the deadline where the Lakers have to call up or send guys down to the G League. If Bronny can continue to show off his incredible athleticism while also knocking down 38, 39, even 40% of his threes and playing faux all defensive team caliber defense, there's really no telling of his potential. There's even a chance for him to start in maybe a couple of games, maybe 10, 15 games a season once he really gets going and gets to his prime. He'll, of course, remain mostly on the bench. But Bronny James has all of the visible and tangible skills that one needs to be successful in the NBA. And really, it's only a matter of time before he gets his actual shot. The thing that makes me feel great about Bronny, too, is the fact that he ended off last season on a very high note because the Lakers were starting to get more of their bench guys in and on the floor, along like the Dalton Connects of the world and the Bronny Jameses of the world. And Bronny was given a little bit more time to really show his skill set. In a game against the Bucks, he had like 15 or 17 points and was going head to head against mostly the Bucks starters and Giannis one on one and kind of shaking him a little bit and getting by him and also showing his immense defensive potential. Of course, I've already touched on Bronny's confidence and the need to just kind of break out of his shell in a way and realize that whether he's playing for the South Bay Lakers on their home court or playing for the LA Lakers in crypto.com arena, the court is the same dimensions. Maybe there's a couple extra camera flashes, but they're on the same floor and he's playing the same game. Once he really gets out of his own head and thinks to himself, I can be more patient with my decisions and I can kind of let the game slow down and come to me. Once he realizes that when he's at the NBA level, again, there's no telling of the impact that he can have on winning because Bronny James, believe it or not, is a winning player. All of his different qualities that he possesses really can lead to the LA Lakers picking up a few extra wins solely because of him, even if he only plays 15 minutes in a given night. He is that much of a game wrecker on defense and that consistent of a three-point shooter, an all-around athlete, and he's great at getting to the rim, and he's a high flyer, and all of this. Flat out, we need to realize the kind of talent that Bronny James is, and it's that he is a winner. He is a winning quality player. And said it a million times. Once he gets his actual shot and he builds his confidence, there's no telling how much he can impact winning for the LA Lakers. All right, well, that'll be it for me today. Thank you very much for tuning in. And if you made it to this point, please leave a comment down below and leave a like. Also, subscribe and turn on post notifications. Still, the goal is to get to around 100, 150 subscribers within the next few months, or at least before the 2026 calendar year starts. So if a few of you can hit that subscribe button, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Also, follow my Instagram and TikTok, both at Dean Simon Hoops, and I will see you guys there with some extra little short form content. All right, I will see you guys later.